Okay, so hi guys. On today's agenda, we will be going over a brief overview of our agenda for today's climate careers chat. We will be introducing ourselves and our team first, and then we will start out with Marisa Johnson's presentation, followed by a quick informational break where the audience can, stretch out your legs and go grab a snack real quick, and a quick bathroom break as well. And then we will hear another presentation from Rose Paratore, and then we'll finish the program with a popular Q&A session and some final closing comments.
Oh yeah, it's going to be tons of fun, guys. So everybody, welcome to the last Climate Careers Chat of the year. Woohoo! This has been a lot of work to put together. So I'm going to shout out some people who have been amazing with putting this all together. Sustainable Leaders in Action, the Contra Costa Libraries, and Sustainable Contra Costa. These organizations, this would not be possible without these organizations. They put this together. And now I'm going to hand it over to our amazing Climate Careers Chat intern. She literally put this all together. She's awesome. Mia.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. I'm really excited for today. I'm Mia, like Rachel said. I'm a senior and I go to Campo. And yeah, I'm super excited for today. Anyone want to follow up?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ileana Betrez. I'm a staff member at Sustainable Contra Costa. We're a nonprofit dedicating to help people live sustainably, and Sustainable Leaders in Action is our youth-led team, and we are so happy that you're here today. And we're even happier to work with our amazing librarians.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karina Chen, and I am the graphics design intern for SLIA. Fellow members of SLIA and I created these slides for you tonight, so we hope that you enjoy. I'm honored to be here tonight, and I hope everyone gets to learn a little something and also have a little bit of fun tonight. Thank you.
And hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Kimball. I'm going to be one of your co-moderators this evening. I am currently a junior at Carondelet High School and a volunteer with Sustainable Leaders in Action. In the meantime, when I'm not volunteering here, I love acting and science. Now I want to welcome our wonderful first-time moderator, Stacy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Ndeke, and I'm a junior at Middle College High School at Contra Costa College. I've only been a member of SLIA for about 2 months, but I joined SLIA because I saw a flyer about the organization, and I really wanted to be a part of the change and the message that they were creating. I wanted to find an environment filled with people who also care deeply about our environment and actively try to spread awareness. So now it's time for a super duper special welcome to our co-host for this event, the Contra Costa County Library. Let's give some claps for them in the chat. And here representing tonight is one of our fabulous librarians, Albert. He will talk to us a bit about the library.
Hello, yes, thank you very much. We're so happy to be with partners with you guys, and we've really been happy to help out and be part of it. We just want to talk about our libraries. We have 26 libraries. We have millions of items to check out, and we have a wonderful collection of digital resources available on our website. We have some free streaming movies, downloadable materials, as well as laptops you can check out in the library, Wi-Fi hotspots for checkout. And so we have a lot of really cool stuff. Come by and check us out in the library or online. We'd be happy to see you. Yeah, these are some of our great resources. We have Flipster. You can read a magazine online. We have free tickets to museums around the area through Discover and Go. And if you're interested in looking up your past, we have access to Ancestry.com.
Awesome. And then Jackie, do you want to introduce yourself before we move on?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I'm with the Antioch Library, and I have been so thrilled to work with this team for the last few months. It's a great group. Thank you, guys.
And now we want to introduce our amazing panelists, Marisa Johnson and Rose Paratore. They're going to be our panelists this evening. We are so lucky to have both of them here. And first, we are going to play a little game of 2 truths and a lie. So Marisa Johnson, our first panelist, is going to read to you guys all of these facts, and you as the audience have to guess which one is the lie. Go ahead, Marisa.
All right. Yeah. So first one, I worked at a butterfly conservatory in college. I traveled to Colombia to learn from land stewards and defenders. I forage and tend plants to make nature and herbal gifts for friends, family, and the community.
All right, everyone, you should see a poll. Please go ahead and pick out which one you think isn't true. All right, we're almost there. Submit your final answers and then we can go ahead and keep going.
Now, Marissa, I don't know which one is the truth and which one's the lie, but I'm sensing a common nature theme in all of these.
Yep, that's right. I'm curious to see what the results are.
All right, can you all see them?
I see them.
Look at that. All right, so most of you guys said Marissa worked at a butterfly conservatory in college. And then the next highest answer was she traveled to Colombia to learn from land stewards and defenders. And finally, the last one, she forages and tends to plants to make nature and herbal gifts for family, friends, and community. All these are really cool. Now, Marissa, which one is the lie?
The lie is the butterfly conservatory. I did not work at a butterfly conservatory. Sounds funny, but I did not do that.
So you traveled to Colombia?
Yeah, I traveled past December for about 10 days. And I was there with a cohort of 10 to 15 people, and we were learning from a lot of different organizers and land defenders, and it was a really impactful experience.
That's amazing. Real quick, we have a question in the chat. Which part of Colombia did you travel to?
All kinds of different areas within the Cauca Valley region. It was kind of like central Colombia.
Wow, that's really cool.
Awesome, Marissa, the floor is yours.
All right. So should I go ahead and share my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, are you able to see it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm really grateful and thankful to be here today to talk to you a little bit about my work and my path to where I am today. Again, my name is Marisa Johnson. I work at Acta Verba Youth Urban Farm. We're based in Oakland. And yeah, a lot of my work in general and just kind of my experiences have been around like land work, food justice, environmental justice. And so that's what a lot of my work is kind of centered around. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of dig a little deeper and talk to you a little bit more about all the things related to that. All right, so again, my name is Marissa. I am the farm manager, and I also do like garden education at our farms at Acta Verba Youth Urban Farm. I grew up in Madera, California, which is about 2.5 hours south of here. It's really sprawling. It's kind of like the opposite of a city, really defined by like big ag, industrial agriculture. Growing up, there are just like fields of like almond trees and grapevines and like pomegranate fields. And so that was really what defines like my neighborhood and my city and like where I grew up. And yeah, I also have like lineages. I grew up in Madera, but my family lineage comes from the American South, so like Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, as well as Central Mexico. And so my roots are in California, as well as like the South, Mexico, and that's where I feel a lot of my connection to like the land and nature comes from as well. I've had a deep love for the natural world kind of my whole life. Just growing up watching like animal programs and Discovery Channel, and seeing that and kind of just being really having this like real deep love for the natural world has always been a part of my childhood. I remember I wanted to be a marine biologist for a really long time. And yeah, just always had this like really deep love for like the mountains and the trees and like animals and the waters and all those things. I grew up around books. I think that's really important. My mom did a lot of children's programming at the library. I love libraries. And I love that this is in collaboration with libraries because I think they offer a lot of really important programming. And yeah, I kind of grew up around that too. So that was a really important, impactful like thing for me to be a part of. So I grew up around so many books and have older siblings, and so just like years of books around me. And one of the books that was really impactful for me and really stood out to me was this book called Captain Eco and the Fate of the Earth. And it's this really cool book. It's like a comic book kind of graphic novel for like young kids. And it was my first kind of real exposure to different environmental issues like animal testing, pollution, deforestation. Those things were all kind of outlined in this book in a real accessible way for kids. And I was just obsessed with that book. I brought it with me everywhere. I read it front to back, I don't know, countless times, and really kind of brought and illuminated for me like my role as a person living in this planet and on this earth, what our role is and what our role and duty, I guess, to like nature and the earth and the planet. So yeah, I always kind of carried that with me. And yeah, so kind of fast forward, I attended UC Berkeley as an undergraduate. I started and did all my 4 years there. I remember I was kind of interested in politics at first, and then quickly became really inspired and empowered by the ethnic studies program. So the ethnic studies program was really empowering for me because it was it's a program that has a really like incredible history that I could go into, but I encourage you all to kind of read into it and research it and explore it yourself. It was started by students at San Francisco State and then kind of expanded to other institutions. But that program is really designed and brings voice to like writers of color and theorists of color and voices that are often marginalized in academics, and talking about things that, you know, are often not highlighted in academia. And so that was really important for me to kind of learn about my history and really explore that and feel really empowered by it. And so I kind of continued with that throughout my undergraduate. But I was also, you know, I still had this real like tendency towards wanting to explore the environmental work. And what I was able to find my niche through like environmental justice. And so environmental justice really bridged for me the things that I cared about, people in my community, the environment, race, and culture. And so, yeah, that's where I found, that's where I kind of explored throughout like my undergraduate years. And what was really, so in one of these pictures on the end, you'll see is from a really important like moment for me. I stayed at a like housing cooperative for 2 of my years, with all students from Cal. And that house has a program with this really cool group, organization called the Greenlining Institute. And they do a lot of like environmental policy work. And so because we as students were staying at this house, we got to connect with people that worked at the Greenlining Institute. So I was connected with mentors, both my sophomore and junior year, who were Black environmental professionals. And that was really, important for me to be able to just learn and expand what I was taking in and exploring really more of the environment, what the environmental world and field looks like through them and from their perspective. So I was really lucky to have that mentorship from them. And I got to write like for their blog and just really, use it as a learning experience as I was really exploring the environmental field and, kind of figuring that out. So I was doing like exploring environmental justice and also exploring environmental policy. I would say the most impactful experience for me during my undergrad years was working with CBE, Communities for a Better Environment. In my last year, it was my senior year, the final semester, it was like the spring semester. So like at the very end of, I was already gonna graduate like in a few months, but I took this really great class. It was actually in the engineering department, but it was engineering ethics, I think was the title of it. And it was led by this really great professor named Khalid Kadir. And through that class, we got to be paired with different community organizations. And this was really important because for me as a student, I felt like I was in such a bubble. I felt like I was so cut off from everything else outside of the university, despite being in the Bay Area and in a place with so much incredible work happening and so many incredible organizations. I still felt like disconnected. And so this class, it was me and like 3 other of my classmates worked with CBE. And CBE, we were based in East Oakland, and we got to do this like mapping assessment of East Oakland and looking at environmental hazards, particularly like pollution, and mapping them and making it accessible for the community. And they also took us on like a toxic tour of Deep East Oakland, which is significant because, there's a specific history and context to all our cities. And in East Oakland, a predominantly Black immigrant refugee like community and neighborhood within the greater city of Oakland, there's so much disinvestment and there's so much, there's greater impact on this community just when we were doing our mapping assessment, like looking at all these different facilities and looking at, there are, very few grocery stores, and really looking at the different, we call them hazard sites as well as assets. So assets would be like grocery stores, green spaces. And we were looking at that, we did our toxic tour, and it's kind of, when I was kind of reflecting, it's like full circle for me because one of the sites we visited on this toxic tour was the farm that I now work at. And it was, marked as a site of positive community asset for the community. And yeah, it was just a really impactful experience to be able to connect with the community at CBE in East Oakland, and to actually do like work that I felt was really grounded and rooted in the community and was going to directly positively impact the community. So yeah, I really, really wanted to work with CBE after I, got to work on this mapping assessment with them. We presented at their Earth Day event, and we got to present to like city officials on this mapping assessment too. And I was, just really wanting to like continue the work with them, but it ended up just not aligning, and they didn't really have positions that were entry level at that time. So I kind of, had to figure out what the next step was. I ended up doing a 9-month fellowship with the city of Alameda kind of directly after I graduated. And it was really different from any work that I'd done. I hadn't really done city work. It really, introduced me to what environmental work looks like on a city level. So talking about like energy, zero waste, and just the different players, like people at play who, are having an impact on what happens at the city level. Alameda was working on their climate action plan at that time, and I got to do a social vulnerability assessment for their climate plan. So the social vulnerability assessment, I got to work with, again, more kind of like mapping of the city and looking at demographics, if there are concentrated demographics in the city, and overlaying those demographics with climate hazards like flooding, heat, and how looking at if those hazards are going to disproportionately impact certain communities or certain areas. So I got to work on that project, and I learned a lot through that. I got to work with more mapping, I got to work with data, and really gave me an idea of what, environmental work looks like at that level. And so I really used this time after graduation to explore the environmental field more, explore my passions, explore my skills. During this time period, I would say it was like 2 years. After graduating, I was a fellow, and then I was also working at a restaurant in downtown Oakland. And later, I also worked as a camp counselor.
5 minutes left.
Oh, thank you for that. But this kind of moment made me kind of reflect on what I wanted to do and like what I wanted in a work environment. And I realized that I really thrived in like dynamic work environments in more social settings. And that's what brought me to A&V Farm, where I am now. Like I said, I originally was working as a camp counselor for the summer and really enjoyed it. I felt like it was a really hands-on and dynamic environment, like work environment. I also felt really connected to East Oakland because I had done work with CBE. And this kind of reflection on what I wanted in my work. I didn't want to just do environmental work. I wanted to do community work as well. And I wanted to bridge those two things. I felt like I needed, I was not just driven by my love for the environment, but also my love for my community. So this is where I am today, A&V Farm. I have so much love for the work that I do and who I get to do it with. At A&V, we elevate life in Oakland by challenging oppressive dynamics in environments through food, farming, and youth programming. We focus on wellness, education, and improving quality of life in Deep East Oakland. And so we have a lot of different programs. We do seasonal camps and after school program. I work on the farms. We have 3 different farms, all kind of centered on different things. We also have a community supported agriculture program, which is, look into it, it's amazing. A bag of veggies or fruit that you can receive from different farmers in the area. So it's all local, seasonal, small scale farms that we work with, and kind of just enhancing and connecting people to a more localized food system. All right, so yeah, like I mentioned, I didn't study agriculture or farming. I was an ethnic studies major, but through my work, I feel that I've been able to learn even more than I learned in school almost, and really engage with my work in a real hands-on way. Highly encourage taking like community college classes. Merritt College has really great programs, really accessible for people who, you know, can't be full-time students. Agroecology Commons does a lot of knowledge and skill sharing, and they have just a lot of opportunities to learn about farming and land work. Maya Blow is an incredible herbalist, farmer, homeopath who has an herbalism apprenticeship every season, and also sells her goods at the Berkeley Farmers Market. And then, like I mentioned in the opening, building solidarity. I feel like building solidarity is super important for the work that I've done, and going, you know, beyond borders and beyond our own local areas to build with people who care about the things we care about, and to build community and build solidarity with people doing work that we do. All right. Thank you, everyone. I feel like I had to kind of move it along, but yeah, thank you for listening. I look forward to answering any questions and talking a little bit further about anything that I mentioned.
Thank you very much, Marisa. That was really cool. I really liked you when you talked about the toxic tour. That sounded really interesting. All right, now everyone, it's time for our quick 3-minute break. We will give you an opportunity to hear about SLIA and SCOCO's very own Climate Careers Chat. Through the Climate Careers Chat, we're going to tell you about the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge.
Okay, I'll take it from here. This Climate Careers Chat is brought to you by SLIA, or Sustainable Leaders in Action. We are the youth-led organization of Sustainable Contra Costa and consists of high schoolers and college students who are all passionate about the environment. We have done many awesome projects like, of course, Climate Careers Chat, Action of the Month, where we choose to practice a specific sustainable action and spread word of it, and also work with government policy for sustainability as well. Our goal is to promote sustainable practices within our community to ensure a greener future and empower the next generation of climate activists. If you are interested in joining SLIA, we'll have a little more information at the end, and also some emails. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much, Marisa, for your presentation. It was awesome. Thank you, Karina. Okay, so the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge is a free online platform that Sustainable Contra Costa sponsors, and it has over 80 sustainable actions that you can take. So there are different categories. I'll get into that right now. But to date, we have surpassed our household participation goal by 229 households, and we are 92% of the way towards our goal of saving 1,200 tons of CO2. And as you can see, we've also had just general savings, like money saved, almost $500,000, and gallons of gas. So you can track all of these things on the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge. Next slide, please. So the challenge has, with these different actions, the challenge is broken up into different categories. So you see them on the top left. Within that, right here to your right, you can see examples of different actions that we have, such as turning stuff off, which is a small but important one, installing smart power strips, adjusting your thermostat right now in the winter, now that it's cold. A good energy saving temperature to have your heater at is 68 degrees. So that'll save you money. That's, if you can handle it, that's a good threshold to save money as well. Within this, all of the actions also have resources, which is what you see on the bottom left. So when you sign up for the challenge, you give your zip code, and then the challenge platform gives you these different specific resources that are active in the area where you live. And it has a bunch of really cool resources, such as informational ones, ones for rebates or credits, and just a plethora of things, which is really cool. Next slide, please. By doing the challenge, you can also earn prizes. So to get a prize from the challenge, you literally just need to complete one action and send it over to us. And if you do that, you can get a whole yard of mulch from Eco Mulch, and we have a bunch of different prizes available as well. If you're interested, definitely claim them. But you can do that by visiting sustainablecoco.org, which is our website, /challenge prizes for more details. Stacey, you're muted.
I'm sorry, guys, but now we will be hearing from our second panelist, Rose Paratore, who is a community engagement specialist for the Sequoia Foundation. Rose will now read out her fun facts to you, and you can go ahead and complete the Zoom poll for the next round of 2 truths and 1 lie.
All right, thank you, Stacy. Okay, here we go. I have met with Congress in Washington, D.C. I hold 3 degrees, and I lived on a farm last year.
Let us know what you think, everyone. All right, about 3/4 of you have answered the question. So if you want to get your final answers in, we can hear from Rose. All right, I think we'll end the poll.
Okay, so looking at the poll results, most of you guys voted for that the lie was Rose holds 3 degrees. Now, is that true, Rose?
It is not true that I hold 3 degrees, so that you got it correct. Yes. Darn, I thought I was being really sneaky too.
Now we will move on to Rose presenting. Take it away.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, present the slides from the beginning. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. I'm super happy to be here tonight. My name is Rose Paratore. I am the Community Engagement Specialist with Sequoia Foundation. My academic background, I have a bachelor's degree in cultural anthropology and a master's degree in public health, and then I'm also a visual artist. Here, the background is a collaged heart that I recently created actually with some high school students for a workshop that I put on, which I will talk about later on in the presentation. So where did it all, oh, and I also just wanted to say that this presentation is just as much kind of a journey about my career path as it is sort of like discovering myself in the context of the climate movement, because I think there's lots of overlap there of who we are and what we do. So where did it all begin? I think it's important to kind of acknowledge my upbringing and what we call in sort of the academic world positionality, where I'm talking to you from, especially because we're talking about environmental justice, which brings up a lot of things about identity. So I am a white woman. I was born and raised in San Francisco by middle working class parents. I went to public elementary school and public middle school, and then I went to a private high school. So I was exposed to a lot of different diversity, growing up. Elementary and middle school saw people from all different walks of life, some of whom were engaged in illegal activities, and others who were really into school but had very different cultural differences as me. And then in high school, I went to school with some people who were from families who were the wealthiest people in the country. So I've been exposed to quite a bit of diversity growing up, and that's kind of brought me now to be very interested in working with people of different upbringings than me. And I also bring up the positionality because I do work in an environmental justice space. And I think my job as the community engagement specialist is very important to be inclusive in the way that I make it a priority to partner with other organizations who can teach about environmental justice and engage communities in ways that I can't, given what my upbringing is. So when I was 10 years old in 2006, I watched The Inconvenient Truth, which had come out. Oops. And this was a documentary about, at the time it was called Global Warming, came out by Al Gore. And this is what I'm calling planted a seed that did not sprout again until college. I could go on and philosophize about why I didn't really choose to go get involved in the climate movement until college, but that's what kind of ended up happening. As I mentioned, I'm also a visual artist. So I was also an athlete growing up. So I just had other priorities as a kid than to get involved. We can't all be the Greta Thunbergs, right? Okay. So early college, I ended up going to community college for 3 years before transferring to a university. And first 2 years was just kind of getting my bearings, taking normal classes. And then my third year, I ended up moving into an apartment in Oakland. And I moved in with my really good friend who you can see here, Sarah. And she introduced me to this organization called the Climate Reality Leadership Project. This is led and founded by Al Gore. And he essentially hosts trainings all over the world. They're 3-day-long training that it's free. It was free when I did it. I'm pretty sure it's still free. And his goal of these trainings is to train everyday people on how to give presentations about climate change to their local community and be climate advocates in their local community. And, you know, she brought this up. She's like, let's go do this training. Let's go to, one of them was in Denver. And then we ended up actually going again as mentors to like host a table a couple years later in Los Angeles. So, you know, at the time I was like 19. I was like, yeah, let's go to Denver. Let's go to Los Angeles. Let's do these trainings. They were really incredible. They were really inspiring. It felt like it kind of lit a fire under my butt to do something other than just school. And yet I ultimately felt very ungrounded in this work. I didn't feel a direct connection to climate change. Climate change was not directly impacting my day-to-day life. It just sort of felt like the right thing to do. So then, okay, just also, by the way, I have one insane cat. So if you hear crazy things happening in the background, that's what's going on. So I then transferred to UC Davis to finish my bachelor's degree. I originally wanted to major in public health as an undergrad, and then I couldn't pass biology. So I dropped biology, and at the same time I was in a cultural anthropology class. And I was like, this is cool. So I ended up majoring in cultural anthropology, which I ended up loving. And I also found CalPERG Students, which is a student advocacy group. It stands for the California Public Interest Research Group. For anyone who's interested in getting involved in student advocacy, highly recommend it. It's really great. It's at each of the UCs has a chapter. I learned a ton about how policy works, about environmental policy, about creating a campaign, about activism. I learned how to train volunteers and get people on board with signing petitions. There were a ton of skills that I learned. And I also climbed up the leadership ladder pretty quickly over the course of the year and a half of being there. And it was a great experience, great leadership experience. It still, however, felt somewhat ungrounded. I still, and you know, while I was there, I was sort of on autopilot just doing this. I was a full-time student while doing all this. So it was a lot going on. But looking back, I didn't feel really grounded in the work, in the missions, in the campaigns we were trying to pass and all that stuff. That's for you. So the story goes on. So then I went straight to graduate school from undergrad. I went to UC Berkeley School of Public Health. I ended up majoring, because how the School of Public Health works is they have 5 different kind of branches. I think it's 5. I ended up choosing environmental health sciences. To be completely honest, when I chose that major, I just thought it sounded cool. I really had no idea what it was. I was like, ooh, environmental, I've been doing that, let's do that. Turns out, as I started taking classes, environmental health sciences is very numbers heavy. It's very, what we would call quantitative, meaning very data driven, very laboratory kind of work, doing a lot of assessments of environmental hazards and how they affect the human body. It's all very important work. And at the same time, I was kind of slowly discovering, as I started taking more and more classes, like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Then winter 2020 rolls around and the pandemic hits. And all of a sudden I did not have to transit to and from school. I no longer had a part-time job, so I had all this time to myself at my home. I was still a full-time student. I was doing Zoom class, as we all were, but I had a lot of free time too. So this was really an interesting opportunity for me to dive deep into my art practice, and that I did. I painted a whole lot. I made a joke that I was actually a full-time artist and part-time grad student during this time. And I really started to discover myself as being a creative social scientist, and in no ways was I a laboratory scientist, and still to this day. And now I cannot see what my last little bullet there is. Oh, finding flexibility. Luckily, I had a really incredible academic advisor who really got who I was and got that I was straying away from the pack of all of these laboratory scientists surrounding me. So he kind of encouraged me and allowed me to bring my creative social scientist self to my final master's capstone project and kind of create something that I actually felt passionate about. So that I did. I knew that I wanted to do something about air quality. That still interested me. environmental health topics still interested me. It was just the way in which I was learning about them that I felt kind of out of place. And what I started to notice was that there was a large gap between what we were studying in what they often refer to as the Ivy Tower in this academic space, and how that knowledge was actually reaching local communities and local populations who were most affected by these things that we were studying. And I, someone who was in graduate school, you know, would be given these presentations about these environmental hazards, and I was getting bored. So if I was getting bored, then I can only imagine how someone who was not in an academic space, you know, understood this kind of information. So I knew I wanted to do something about air quality. I knew I wanted to do something that was creative and in the realm of data dissemination. That is a very fancy way of saying how research reaches audiences outside of academia once the research is actually complete. I knew I wanted to sort of bridge this gap, like I was talking about, between where the research was being done and the communities that were affected by those health phenomena. So I ended up partnering with a local organization in Richmond called Pogo Park. They're a local sort of outdoors activity hub doing really, really great work. And this was my first major experience of the messiness of community engagement. I was having meetings with a couple of the staff members there who were from Richmond, who were not in the world of academia at all. And I was having conversations with them about how they want to learn and understand and know about these environmental hazards and how they're affecting them. And that is not straightforward to have those conversations. It's very messy. I had to get myself out of the academic talk and get into the neighborhood community talk. And just kind of like sit with that. Those, someone once called it first draft talk, where not everything that's going to come out is going to be cohesive or pretty. It's going to be messy for a little while. So I ended up creating this online platform that kind of told a story about Richmond and air pollution and incorporated a lot of narrative. These are just a couple examples of my slides from that final presentation. And it was very much away from the norm. So what was next after graduate school? I knew I did not want to go back into academia anytime soon. I was pretty done with that. I knew that I didn't want to do just like part-time work to support myself, to do art. I didn't really want to go down that route. So I ended up just casting my net very wide. I applied to a bunch of different jobs. This is when I was living on the farm, full circle to Sinolai. I ended up landing on a position as a community health navigator in San Francisco, where I was working with Medi-Cal recipients, so very low income or low income, experiencing multiple chronic conditions, mental health issues, socially disadvantaged, many of which were either at risk of homelessness or homeless. And I was helping them to navigate different medical and social services. And here I say this because I really want to highlight, to me, the importance of having client-facing work as part of your background if you want to get into environmental work. I mean, I think it can apply to a lot of different kind of work if you want to go into social services, or it can apply to so many different fields, honestly. But when you have on-the-ground experience working with people who have very different backgrounds as you and working with them directly face-to-face, I think it, one, humbles you. It definitely humbled me. And it gives you this frame of reference for how you ought to engage different communities and how you ought to speak with them in a way that isn't hierarchical. So I ended up leaving that company after 10 months because they were a for-profit company, and I did not, to put it kindly, I didn't fully agree with their values, and I didn't feel like I could grow anymore. I learned a lot, but I kind of plateaued and just was ready for something new. So I then landed at Sequoia Foundation, where I'm the community engagement specialist now. And it feels like such an incredible full circle, because what I do now is so much of what I did for my master's capstone, where I had such terrible and crippling imposter syndrome, and now I'm doing it for a living. So I find that to be very magical. And so now what I'm doing, I'm working on currently 4 different projects, but I'm going to highlight one where I'm bringing whatever research is being done in the laboratory or in the office space, and I'm bringing it to a local community. And I'm bringing it to a local community in a meaningful way. That sounds really cool, and yet it takes a lot of time. It requires kind of sitting in that mess, like I said, whether it be dealing with logistics or, you know, making some topic around what research we're doing, which in this case, we're doing a lot of topics around air quality and environmental health, and translating in a way that's going to be meaningful. That's really messy. Lots of trial and error, lots of making it up as I go along. So this current project,
5 minutes left.
Great, thank you. This current project we're working on is funded through the Air District, and we are going into schools in Oakland, mainly Skyline High School, and bringing different activities and opportunities for the students to think about environmental health and climate change and environmental justice in a meaningful way. And so, as I mentioned, that workshop that I did, that was done a couple of weeks ago, and I was using collage and these whiteboard word clouds and reflection and lots of free writes for the students to engage with concepts of the environment, not just the physical, but the social and political and cultural in a way that where I wasn't trying to tell them what was right and wrong. It was just a way for them to explore on their own what this meant to them and how they can kind of place their own identity in the physical world around them. And it was really fun. We made a bunch of different collages together, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. So that's, and oh, I wanted to say that to me, this is not, the work that I do is not about trying to mitigate the burning of fossil fuels or pass energy policy. It's really about environmental education, which I think is a huge part of the environmental justice movement, is how knowledge is being circulated around different communities in meaningful ways and in effective ways to create the next generation of thinkers and of leaders. So what's next for community engagement? One of the big ways that I'm supporting students at Skyline is through their capstone projects. So supporting seniors with their capstone projects relating to environmental justice, air quality, climate change. This is our website, which you can check out, the Scholar Air Project, play on words. We talk a lot about air quality monitoring and how to work with air quality monitoring data in an accessible high school level way. I hope to continue bringing art to the environmental education space. It's been a very fun and creative and freeing way for the students to engage in these complex topics. And I also I hope to continue to work with communities of all different settings. All right, thank you.
Oh my goodness. So thank you so much, Rose. Like, honestly, the presentation was inspiring. And that concludes our presentation program. So now we will be starting with the Q&A session where you, the audience, can submit questions using the Q&A function in your little toolbar down below. So please indicate whether your question is directed towards Marisa, Rose, or both. So Rachel, you can go ahead and start us off.
All right, let's get this going. This is like my favorite part of the Climate Careers Chat, by the way. This is so much fun. All right, our first question is from Ruben. What do land stewards and defenders do? Now, I'm assuming this is for Marisa because this came up while she was talking. So Marisa, what do land stewards and defenders do?
Yeah, so land stewards are people who work with the land. They work with the soil to build healthy soil and just create healthy environment. A lot of our land and soils and our earth is exploited and has been extracted. And so land stewards and land defenders also, I would say, do work that kind of rehabilitates our soils and our earth through farming, through seed saving, through planting native plants, through planting pollinator habitat, and really, yeah, just kind of building a healthy ecosystem and doing it in a way that, yeah, is not extractive or exploitative.
Amazing answer. So the next question we have is from Camille. It's, what was the name of the ethnic studies program? And I assume that this one is also for Marisa.
Yeah, the ethnic studies program, it's just the ethnic studies major at UC Berkeley. So yeah, you can just look up ethnic studies and it should come up.
All right, let's do one for Rose now. Rose, what was your experience like at UC Davis?
I was a transfer student. Me and all the other transfer students like to make a joke that we are like our own little community of people. It wasn't like the traditional 4-year college experience. I didn't go to the dorms. I didn't live in the dorms. I think I went to one frat party the whole time that I was there. Wasn't for me. Like I said, I got very much involved in CalPERC students. That was kind of where I met a lot of people. So if I hadn't done that, I probably would have remained a lot more of a hermit, because that's where I really was able to meet a lot of people. So I'm very grateful for CalPERC students. And generally, though, Davis is amazing. It's very flat, and I got super into cycling when I was there. And being from San Francisco was quite a change of pace because it was very flat and country-like.
Okay, so our next question is, what were the environmental issues that you covered in environmental justice? And then it ties with a second question, which, what were the issues that the community faced? And this is for Marisa.
So I'm thinking, I guess I'll answer this question in the context of like my work with CBE, Communities for a Better Environment. So like I said, specifically to the community of East Oakland, the environmental issues that residents face, definitely it's really industrial. So you have a lot of like trucks in and out going down, you know, this main like street that just runs right through the neighborhood. You have the BART really close by, freeways, as well as the Coliseum and the Oracle Arena. They're all within this like neighborhood. And so that's, you know, air quality, air pollution, noise pollution, and just contributing to poor air quality and carcinogens in the air. There's this foundry that actually just got, because of organizers at CBE, just got booted out of Oakland. It's been there since like the early 1900s. It's a foundry. They make like metal pipings, I'm not totally sure. But they are one of the largest contributors to carcinogens and toxic pollutants in the air, which as a result causes, you know, cancer and poor air quality, or just like overall long-term health impacts on residents. But because of the work at CBE, they were able to get that foundry to leave the city. So they're leaving, and that's amazing. But yeah, that's been there for a really long time. And then also, East Oakland is a food desert, or we call it experiences food apartheid, because it's not by coincidence that residents don't have access to fresh, healthy food, don't have access to grocery stores. There are a lot of liquor stores, and there's nowhere to really get fresh food. People have to drive a lot farther, and it's just not accessible for people. So yeah, there are no like farmers markets, in East Oakland. So that's another environmental justice issue, because it negatively impacts, again, a predominantly Black immigrant refugee community.
That's amazing that you guys are making that impact, Marisa. That's really cool. Okay, now next question for Rose. Rose, I see you've already answered this in the chat, but would you mind like restating it for everyone else? The question is, what is the most effective way to promote climate action without making others anxious?
I love this question. I assume you mean anxious by like thinking about the world ending and things like that. I would say, given that I started off in the climate world being very much the larger scale work, like political advocacy and like how to get big policies passed on a very large scale, and have gone down to very, very, very local, small scale work, that would be my advice. I'm of course biased because that's been my own path, but I have found that I'm far less anxious. I think working with people, I really, really enjoy working one-on-one with people or in groups, in small groups. So I've been working with a lot of students at high schools. And while in the grander scheme of things, working with these students and doing these workshops and doing these smaller scale activities is not immediately making an impact in our larger physical space. It feels really meaningful to me, and I can see that these students are thinking about their environment and their surroundings and their communities in a different way after I leave the classroom. And to me, that's incredibly fulfilling. So I guess my advice to that is there is not one way to do climate work. There are an abundance of ways to do climate work and to help heal your local community and heal yourself and heal the environment. That doesn't need to be really large scale and big. I tend to think that we get anxious because we start to get too big in our brain of like, how are we going to solve this huge planetary issue? So less is more, smaller scale. So that answers your question.
Wonderful answer. So we have another question from Camille, and it's, what does CDE stand for, Marisa? And I think this is CDE or CBE, because I was hearing that being thrown around. So
yeah, sorry, CBE, Communities for a Better Environment. They're statewide. I was working with them in East Oakland, but they also have a Richmond base and Los Angeles and Wilmington, I believe.
That's really cool, Marisa. That organization sounds really awesome. All right, now another question for Rose. How do you know that you are grounded versus ungrounded in your work and environment?
Also a very good question. As I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, I said that this was going to be a career journey as well as a self-discovery journey, or a story of both. To be honest, I feel more grounded in myself, or in my workplace, because I feel more grounded in myself. And during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time by myself and doing art and being sad and feeling my feelings and looking inward. And I wasn't doing that when I was doing the larger scale climate work. So is it a coincidence? I don't know. I also feel like the work that I'm doing now is more me. As I mentioned before, the climate work that I started off doing, I wasn't connected to. I didn't have a personal connection to the larger climate changing or to global warming at large. I was not being directly impacted by this issue. However, working with people and translating complex topics in an artistic and creative way, I am an artist. That is what my passion is. That's what feeds my soul. So bringing my passion and what I like to do on my free time to my workspace, I feel much more grounded in that. And I mean, you can kind of tell anyone else on the call who has had jobs before that you absolutely dread versus having a job where you feel excited to go to when you wake up in the morning. You just know.
That's some really good insight. And then I have this question that kind of relates to what you were just talking about, Rose. Camille asks, Rose, how do you think your work impacts communities? How did you escape the crippling imposter syndrome?
I'll answer the second one first. In some ways, I have not escaped crippling imposter syndrome. That still haunts me to this day. There are a couple projects that I'm working on that are more like stakeholder involved. So I bring research that's being done in the lab to more stakeholder level as opposed to, schools. And I don't feel like it just feels weird. I don't feel like I'm supposed to be there. And I just kind of have to talk myself down and breathe and remind myself that I deserve to be in this position and I worked hard to be here. So if you are experiencing imposter syndrome, you're likely doing a really good job at whatever you're doing. And our little inner devil likes to convince us otherwise. The other question, what was the other question?
The other question was asking about, let me see.
There's something about impact.
Oh yeah. How do you think your work impacts communities?
I mentioned this a little bit in the presentation. So I think it's at the core, it is environmental education, at least with the school project. I'll talk about the school project. So I'm bringing complex ideas about air quality monitoring and poor air quality as a health hazard and environmental justice. And I work to kind of translate it in a way that's going to make sense and be meaningful to these students who have a zillion other things on their minds at all times. Do I know that it's impacting them? Not really. I don't really know what they do with this information at the end of the day. I'd say the best indicator is the questions that they ask, is the discussions that they have with me. I do try to do some like reflection surveys every now and then to see what can be improved. So it's an ongoing process though of kind of trying to measure that impact when really it's a lot harder to measure the impact of this type of work because it's an ongoing slow process. It's not just, seeing the impact of, a group of people getting vaccinated versus not, for example.
That's really fascinating. Thank you, Rose. Okay, the next question is for Marisa. What books would you recommend regarding environmental awareness for high schoolers?
I mean, one book that definitely comes to mind is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And it's kind of from the perspective of like Indigenous wisdom and understanding the earth and through that perspective. So yeah, I would say that book. Yeah, I think I'd have to get back to them on some others, but that's definitely my number one.
All right, so next question. Tatiana asks for the both of you, favorite internship you've done.
Marisa, you're on mute. You want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, as far as the work, yeah, internship, definitely working with CBE, Communities for a Better Environment. They are just so grounded in community and very like, they're just so empowering. They're organizers through and through. They also just have a lot of knowledge about like the history and context, and have a really clear vision for what they want in the world and what they want in their communities. And I just really see that bridge between like theory and practice. So like, we can talk all day about the issues, but they also really do incredible work every day on the ground. And they have really incredible connections with, their statewide organization. So they just have a lot of partners that they work with too. And I think they really make moves and shift the work that they want to do. Yeah, it was just really impactful for me as a student to connect with them and to get a better idea of what like is happening in our cities, and having that perspective from people who come from the community is invaluable. And they're Black and Brown led, and it's just really, really incredible and humbling to be able to work with them.
That sounds like a wonderful experience, Marisa. Thank you. All right, now we have another question for both Rose and Marisa from Jonathan. What is the best way to bring awareness to your students and teachers at school? So Rose, do you want to go ahead and start us off with this one?
Sure. Do you mean awareness about something in particular? Can I put you on the spot, Jonathan? Could you be a little bit more specific? Well, I'll just answer it broadly then. Oh, for food waste and energy use. Yeah, I would honestly, in my experience, is like having conversations with your friends. If you're a student now, I'm not sure if you're a student now, but having a embracing that it's probably going to take longer than you hope for that awareness to be achieved. We often have like a vision of how this is going to go, and I've definitely learned in this work that my vision is often not going to replicate reality, or other way around. I would say almost do like a little focus pilot group. So maybe getting like a few friends together and asking them different questions, like open-ended questions about what do you think about food waste? What comes to mind when I say food waste? What comes to mind when I say energy use? And really getting some feedback from a smaller group. And maybe you can say, what would you think if I put this sign here? How would you reflect on that? Versus what would you think if I put on a movie about food waste? So almost doing like a little mini pilot with maybe like 4 or 5 friends, and then getting that consensus. And then I think of Wall-E when I hear food waste. Awesome. That's such a great movie. And then, blowing that up to large scale. And that way you're getting direct feedback by your local community of what can be done to raise awareness before actually doing it on a larger scale.
I would also add, in the context of food waste, there's a really great organization called Stop Waste that I think they're Alameda County based, but there might be something similar in your area, and kind of finding, people who are doing the work already and inviting them into your school and asking them to, maybe host an event or do a partner event with them. Also, another thing in the terms of food waste, visiting like a dump is actually very impactful. In my fellowship, we went to the Davis Transfer Center, which is where all of our like refuse goes, and it gets sent to the dump, and there's the recycling, there's the waste, and then there's the like green waste, the compost. And yeah, I mean, that experience is really impactful, and it's kind of really a direct view perspective on what happens with our waste and what happens with, you know, the things that we throw in the trash. That can be a really great opportunity to learn and to get people like engaged and just more aware of like the systems.
Amazing advice and tips from the both of you. And we have a question here. I'm not sure who this is directed at, but it says, do you see a difference working with adults and students?
I could probably write a book about this question to answer it. Before doing this work, I had not stepped foot into high school since high school, which was back in 2014, and I was very daunted and terrified of teenagers. After getting a lay of the land, I got used to it, and teenagers are on their students. I'll say students. I mean, I've only been working with teenagers. They're on their phones a lot more than adults, I'd say, but adults are also on their phones all the time. Something I noticed is that, and actually advice that I got as well, is that youth are often, especially like the teenage group, are often not going to respond when they are moved by something or inspired by something that you say with body language or verbally. They're often going to be more likely to internalize it and think about it, but not necessarily show it. That was like incredible advice that I got, because I kept feeling like I'm a fairly animated person. And so when I, you know, have a reaction to something, I will show it. For teenagers that I've been working with, if I say something that I'm, you know, hoping to get a reaction from, many of them will just be like dead in the face. No offense, y'all. You've been great. So I've kind of been learning how to, one, just like believe in myself that what I'm saying is doing is meaningful and impactful, and that the way to notice that it's making impact is not necessarily going to be in how they're immediately responding.
That is really interesting, Rose. Thank you. Okay, now for either speaker, both of you guys, what recommendations do you have that I, as a high school student, and this anonymous attendee can do to make an impact as a high school student? So, Marisa, you want to start us off?
Oh, such a big question. I would say, I mean, I really like what Rose had to mention earlier about starting small and like really local. You know, we don't have to get so expansive with like wanting to have an impact on the whole world. Like we can start in our cities with our communities, talking to your friends, talking to, you know, other people that you go to school with, and connecting on that level, I think, is one of the best ways to start. Talking with like-minded people, coming to chats like this and like having discussions and building relationships. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in this work. Is it's so important, so important to build like real substantial relationships with people, long-term relationships, like knowing that we have similar goals, similar values, similar dreams for what we want in the world when it comes to the environment, when it comes to the health of our communities. You have to have, you know, community. You have to have relationships that are not just fickle and gonna fizzle out and will not be there in a year from now, you know? If you're really committed to this kind of work, I think my biggest piece of advice would be to really build community with people who share the same values and dreams that you do. And yeah, really prioritize creating those relationships and just continuing conversations and learning, and always, yeah, keeping that in mind, like being a lifelong learner, and being really rooted in like creating that community and staying true to like, yeah, creating these like strong relationships.
I totally agree with what Marisa said. And I'll just add to that, like, don't feel like you need, kind of similar to what she said, don't feel like you need to make a quote unquote impact and like do something grand if you just like to paint, for example, or act or sing or play video games, but you're like passionate about it and beating the level and whatnot. If you just like to play chess or go to, you know, whatever. Like, I think in high school, at least personally, I cared too much about what my image was and that I felt like I needed to do it because it was the right thing to do. I wish I would have just sooner rather than later followed what I actually wanted to do that would make me happy.
Oops, sorry. But thank you guys for your responses. We have another question from Rohan. What has been the highlight of your career for both of you guys?
I saw you unmute. Man, I feel like it's funny for me to be like, this is my career, because I still feel so young in this work, and I feel like I have so much more to go. But I think I would say not something that I've done, but just right now I feel so inspired and empowered in my work, the people that I work with, the people that I get to learn from and grow with. I've been in work environment where I just did not look forward to going to work, where I've just felt like, not so inspired. And I remember telling myself, I want to do this. I want to work outdoors. I want to be working with Black and Brown youth in Oakland. And I laid these things out in my mind, and that's what I do now. And yeah, for me, that's been a highlight, I think, so far, is just knowing that what I do is something that I truly care about, something that I feel really passionately about. I'm inspired every day and I'm learning all the time, which is all I could ask for.
I agree that I'm very young in the game as well. I don't feel as though I can make a judgment of what the highlight of my career has been. I will throw in a curveball though and say that the pandemic taught me a lot about myself. I wouldn't say it was a highlight, but I really took the time during the pandemic to sit and be with myself in a way that I don't think I would have done otherwise. And it was a sad time, but on the other side of it came a lot of growth. So I'll say that as well. Can I also tie that into a question that just came in? Okay, this question, what advice do you have for high school seniors that are majoring in environmental science, but don't want to get stuck in the core science curriculum like biology and physics? I have a two-part answer. First part is that throughout your academic career or career in general, there is always going to be work or classes that you don't want to take, but you have to. And that took me a long time to kind of realize. I still deal with it today. I still like whine about things that I have to do for work that I don't enjoy doing. Generally speaking, I love my job, but there's just going to be the stuff that we don't want to do, but we have to in order to get to the end of the tunnel. So I'll say that there may just be classes that you need to take. For me, it was biostatistics and epidemiology that basically killed me into oblivion, but I got through it and I'm here now. Second part that I'll say is that there are ways to like attune your major. I guess you're talking more for seniors, but in college, at least, like I could not pass biology in college. So, and I was taking cultural anthropology at the time. So I dropped biology and I switched my path completely. I still ended up doing public health and I felt it was all meant to be, and I wasn't meant to do public health as an undergrad. So they're kind of contradictory answers, but Both are true to me.
That is really fascinating. Thank you, guys. All right, so we are wrapping up the Q&A session. We'll finish off with these couple last questions, but we're not accepting any more questions for tonight. Thank you guys for your participation. All right, this is for either speaker, both you guys. I recently started a club at my high school that is focused on the environment, and I was wondering what your suggestions are for community outreach and for projects that can get the community involved. So, Marisa, you want to take this one?
I'm gonna have to think a little more. Can I pass it to Rose, since I know you do a lot of community outreach work?
Of course, Rose, take it away.
I honestly, because I work with youth and do this, I would love to like talk with you more about what you're doing. I don't think I could do it justice of giving you a one sentence response, but I'm more than happy to like actually meet with you and talk about this more, because there are strategies that you can implement that will help you get more numbers and more people involved. But I don't think a 30-second answer would do it justice. So if you have my email available, is my email going to be available on the page or whatever? Yes, cool. Feel free to email me. I'm very responsive. I would love to support you, Catherine. And good on you for starting a club.
Okay, so we have another question here, and I think this is going to be one of our last questions, and it's a question for Rose again. And what strategies have you used to get the best and most engaging response?
Gosh, so much of it has been like trial and error and making this up as I go along. So some things stick and some don't. It's been super effective, these workshops that I did. They were like, I called them environmental justice art workshops, because I really tried to stray away from telling the students what was right and wrong. I'd say that has been my #1 success rate, successful strategy, has been really encouraging the students to say what's on their mind. I mean, giving a prompt, of course, like, you know, what does environment mean to you? What does healthy environment mean to you? What does an unhealthy environment look like to you? What does community mean to you? All these like open-ended questions that gets a conversation and discussion going without trying to dictate what is right and wrong. Because ultimately, especially in the environmental justice arena, where we're talking about identity and experiences in relation to our physical environment, there is no really right or wrong, right? So that's been really effective. Also using art and creative methods for them to express themselves has been really effective. I've noticed that a lot of these students are needing a space to not be told that they are right or wrong, and just to kind of create and express themselves. So, and I didn't originally plan for that. I kind of originally planned for it being more of like a guest speaker presentation style. And then as I kind of sat with them and realized what was going on in this urban public school, that they really just like need a space to reflect and express themselves. Also, Skyline High School happens to be in the middle of a redwood forest. So I tend to take the students outside and sit under the trees, and they tend to really, really like that. But that is, of course, a unique landscape for a high school.
All right, thank you guys. And that concludes our Q&A session. All right, we're gonna go back onto the slides now. And if the audience is interested in learning more about the topics the panelists discussed, our link tree is right there on the QR code. You can go ahead and scan that and it'll take you to a whole bunch of links about everything they talked about. It's wonderful. All right, so we'll give you guys a minute to scan that code. And let's stay in touch. You guys can follow us, Sustainable Leaders and Sustainable Cocoa in the CC Library, all that jazz. Lovely. And if you want to join Sustainable Leaders in Action, do it. It's amazing. It's so much fun. You have that link to sign up on the QR code.
Do we have any last parting words from Ellie and the librarian?
Yes, do we want to go to the next slide? Cool. Jackie and Albert, would you like to say anything?
Thank you so much, SLIA team. You guys are amazing. Thank you to the presenters. Really, really interesting. You guys are inspiring. And last thing, if you guys don't have a library card, get one.
Albert, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, that covers it. Thank you very much. Just to echo Jackie's words, yes, so inspiring and so happy to work with you and looking forward to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, I just want to thank everyone for coming. We were really excited for this climate careers chat, and each one is different and new and exciting. The theme for this one was exploring environmental justice, because truly that has many different forms. So hearing from Rose and Marisa, thank you so much. That was really insightful and really, really interesting to see the intersectionalities, but also, you know, the different perspectives we approach everything from. Also, I would like to thank the SLIA team who worked on this. You all are awesome. Thank you, Karina, Emery, Carlina, Rachel, Stacy, Arav, Rohan, and special thanks to Mia, our intern, who literally put this whole thing together. You did such a great job. And then I'd also like to thank Dean, our librarian, who we'll be working with. Dean, we'll see you next time. And a huge thanks to Albert for always holding it down. And Jackie, thank you for supporting this program this last year. We loved working with you, and we're excited to continue this relationship with Dean and just keeping you in our orbit. So thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. That concludes our program.
Thank you.